My model is actually very simple. It's just 60% median growth every year. And if you go back 5 to 10 years, roughly you see the same trajectory. But one thing that most models don't account for is that there will be a point at which people just stop using fiat currencies. So we can project out 10 years, 20 years, but the reality is we're probably not going to go to 20 million a coin. And eventually at some point, we'll just use Bitcoin as the unit of account. So with money, you have three parts of paths to evolution: store of value, unit of account, medium of exchange. So unit of account right now is still the dollar. Even countries that don't use the dollar, their currencies are pseudo-pegged to the dollar or directly pegged to the dollar. But eventually we'll just price things in Satoshis, which is the smallest unit of Bitcoin.
Jan 3's CEO, Samson Mo, is making bold predictions. Bitcoin won't just reach $20 million per coin. It will redefine value as we know it, overtaking fiat currencies altogether. Mo forecasts that Bitcoin, growing at an annual rate of 60%, could eclipse the dollar in 5 to 10 years, setting a new global standard for currency. According to Mo, everyday prices may soon be quoted in Satoshis, Bitcoin's base unit. Furthermore, he suggests that high-profile figures, possibly including former US President Donald Trump, are using Bitcoin as a hedge to safeguard and increase their wealth as Bitcoin demand soars. With this transition, the dollar's dominance could decline, impacting everything from conflict funding to economic resilience, with Bitcoin becoming a safe haven in times of turmoil. Stay tuned till the end of the video, where Mo unveils how Bitcoin's influence could be a force for widespread positive change. Also, if you enjoy listening to crypto-related content, please show your support by liking and subscribing to this channel by following the link in my bio. And get access to my free daily crypto updates and expert predictions direct to your inbox. Each newsletter contains market intelligence, on-chain data and latest updates from experts in the crypto space. All of this is available completely free of charge. Signing up only takes a moment and you can always change your mind later on. Now back over to Samson Mo.
Trump is an interesting character. He likes to, I think he likes to say that he fulfilled his promises. So if you look at what he did in the previous election, he was talking about building the wall. Did they build the wall to the full scale that they said they were going to build it? No, but they built parts of the wall. So even if he only does a part of the Bitcoin strategic reserve, maybe he buys 100,000 coins. I don't know. But that is something. But at least we know that we have access to Trump through a lot of the people lobbying in the US. And we know that he is at least not against Bitcoin. And yes, he is, promoting altcoins and whatnot, but sometimes you have to choose the lesser of two evils. My model is actually very simple. It's just 60% median growth every year. And if you go back 5 to 10 years, roughly you see the same trajectory. But one thing that most models don't account for is that there will be a point at which people just stop using fiat currencies. So we can project out 10 years, 20 years, but the reality is we're probably not going to go to 20 million a coin. And eventually at some point, we'll just use Bitcoin as the unit of account. So with money, you have three parts of paths to evolution: store of value, unit of account, medium of exchange. So unit of account right now is still the dollar. Even countries that don't use the dollar, their currencies are pseudo-pegged to the dollar or directly pegged to the dollar. But eventually we'll just price things in Satoshis, which is the smallest unit of Bitcoin. Ultimately, everyone is going to use Bitcoin. It's either you accept it or you wait until you have no choice, because the person you want to buy bread from doesn't want a euro anymore. So at that point, do the regulations really matter? It's just near term. I think you can have good regulations or bad regulations, but the legal tender law I don't think is really legal tender even in El Salvador, because merchants are not forced to accept it. Larger companies are accepting it because they want to make sure they follow the letter of the law. But by and large, most people don't accept Bitcoin yet in El Salvador even, and they're not forced to. So if I go to a business and I say I want to pay in Bitcoin, they say no, I can't call the police. I don't think anyone's going to enforce that. And I think the deregulation path of Argentina is probably more practical, just saying, just use whatever you want. And you can use Bitcoin as money, and there is no barrier there. There's no taxation on it, because you shouldn't be taxed on using money to buy, daily goods. And I think places like Switzerland are okay as well, because there is no capital gains tax. So you can, for example, in Lugano, just spend Bitcoin and buy whatever you want, and it's just treated as money too. And there was no regulation needed for that as well. So I guess it depends really on if there is anything currently prohibiting, because some countries don't allow people to use Bitcoin for payments as well. So either you need to amend that or make a new regulation saying, yes, Bitcoin can be used. So it's very different per country, but I think the countries that we are focused on are more in the developing world, and they are seeking economic growth and investment. So for them, it's not really worrying about all these things that maybe Europeans worry about, but they just want money to come in. States are going to want it one way or another. And right now, as you saw, the bulk of the holdings are from seizures from criminal activities. But in the future, that could change to mining, because if you look at it, at least the way I look at it, is a state is basically, they're the homeowner association. They operate the land and they have all the energy, and they can direct that to do different things, like mining Bitcoin. So they could mine it for themselves. And we already see that there is a potential for Bitcoin mining to balance grids. And if you're going to nuclear, you have a very large base load already that you need to consume. So why not mine Bitcoin with it? So eventually, there is no such thing as a mining company. It's just an energy company, and they all mine. And if they all mine, then, and they're state-owned, then the state can produce its own Bitcoin. But I think the key is that we are engaging to make sure that if there are policies that come out, it's not bad policies, and there are protections in place to ordinary Bitcoin holders. Well, I think people that want to abuse the rules and abuse their power are going to do so anyways. And I think Bitcoin can change people for the better. So if you take, two people as a test, and you give one of them, and both want to abuse power, and you give one of them Bitcoin, it's more likely that the one that you educated and got into Bitcoin is going to change, because they understand at least the Bitcoin ethos and maybe sound money. But the more important thing is that with Bitcoin, you can't really abuse the system, because the system treats everyone equally. So even if you're impoverished and you're unbanked, you have the same ability to acquire Bitcoin as Michael Saylor. I think that is the more important thing, just getting it into the hands of people. So, for example, El Salvador, they adopted Bitcoin, and maybe they have like 500,000 people using it, or 300,000. It's estimated, but at least those 300,000 people now have access to Bitcoin. Whereas if they didn't adopt it, then it'd be zero, or close to zero. So I think, again, you have to take the good with the bad. So if a government accepts it and they endorse it, then the people are going to benefit, and they are going to have Bitcoin, which levels the playing field, I think, at the end of the day. And you do see some of this playing out in the US. So, like, President Trump is speaking at a Bitcoin conference. You have major senators there. Senator Elizabeth Warren is probably going to lose, or at least she's fighting a heated battle with Deaton for a Senate seat. So why are they able to compete, and why are they at Bitcoin conferences? It's because we have a significant amount of wealth in the hands of Bitcoiners now. So it is changing the game. I think Bitcoin defunds wars. It's difficult to finance a war if you actually have to go to people that have custody of the asset or the money. It's easy to finance a war if you can print the money. And it's the same for everything. Most government policies are not of the will of the people. And I'm from Canada, so I can tell you, we didn't want to buy the vaccines, but the government bought the vaccines. We didn't want the $84 million app that you use to register when you enter and leave the country, but they did that anyway. So if they had to ask and collect the money for that, no one would give them the money for that. And it's the same with financing war. So I believe Bitcoin will usher in an age of peace, because the people that are corrupt, that want war, won't be able to finance the war. So the impact of the war, probably markets would tank and Bitcoin will go down, but eventually Bitcoin will go back up, because Bitcoin is likely going to be the only financial network that is going to be operating if there is full-blown war and sides are split up and lines are drawn across the board. One thing that people seem to forget is that financial systems don't work during wartime. You can't send money to anybody, and it depends on where you are and what app you're using, but probably a lot of them won't work. Venmo probably won't work. PayPal probably won't work. So everyone will just end up using Bitcoin. And bank balances will disappear for some reason or other. Maybe a bank data center is hit. So Bitcoin will be the only thing that functions at the end of the day. I don't think there is a political risk. Any country that has a strong reserve of Bitcoin or large reserve of Bitcoin will be in a good position. The political risk might be, people come to Germany to ask for financing. But I think having Bitcoin is de-risking, because if you have gold, then you're at risk of seizure of the gold, especially if you have the gold in your own territory.
Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe for news and expert predictions direct to your inbox.